Complete summary of The Shining by Stephen King. First published January 28, 1977. Warning, spoilers ahead. Read to you at Booknook. Jack Torrance, a former teacher and aspiring writer, takes a job as the winter caretaker of the Overlook Hotel, a sprawling and isolated resort nestled in the Colorado Rockies. Recently fired from his teaching position due to an outburst of violent anger, Jack is desperate for a fresh start. He sees the job as a chance to support his wife, Wendy, and their young son, Danny, while also giving him the solitude he needs to work on a play that he hopes will rejuvenate his stalled writing career. The Overlook Hotel itself is steeped in a storied and often dark history, which Jack learns about during his interview with Stuart Ullman, the hotel's manager. Ullman expresses some reservations about hiring Jack, mentioning the isolation and psychological challenges of the winter caretaker role. He shares the chilling story of a previous caretaker, Delbert Grady, who succumbed to cabin fever and murdered his wife and daughters before taking his own life. Despite Ullman's warnings, Jack is determined to make the job work and convinces Ullman of his capability. Meanwhile, Jack's wife, Wendy, is cautiously optimistic about the opportunity. She hopes the isolation will allow the family to reconnect and heal from past wounds, particularly Jack's struggle with alcoholism and his violent temper, which once resulted in an incident where he broke Danny's arm in a fit of rage. Wendy's resilience and loyalty to Jack are rooted in a complicated mixture of love, fear, and a desire to keep their family intact. She is deeply concerned about Danny's well-being, as the boy is highly sensitive and unusual in ways she doesn't fully understand. Danny Torrance, a 5-year-old with extraordinary psychic abilities referred to as the Shining, is deeply intuitive and perceptive. He has the ability to read minds, experience vivid premonitions, and communicate telepathically. Danny's abilities are both a gift and a burden, as they often expose him to unsettling visions and emotions that he doesn't fully comprehend. Before the family departs for the Overlook, Danny has a terrifying vision of blood and violence associated with the hotel. Despite his fear, he cannot articulate the full extent of his abilities or his premonitions to his parents, who regard his Shining as little more than a vivid imagination. The family's journey to the Overlook is marked by a sense of unease, particularly for Danny. Upon arrival, the Torrances meet Dick Halloran, the hotel's chef, who immediately recognizes Danny's psychic abilities, as he also possesses the Shining. Halloran takes a special interest in Danny and warns him about the dangers of the hotel, particularly room 237, advising him to stay away from it at all costs. He explains that the Overlook has a life of its own, with dark and malevolent forces that can prey on vulnerable individuals. Halloran reassures Danny that he can reach out to him telepathically if he ever needs help, though Halloran will be far away in Florida during the winter. As the final guests and staff leave for the season, the Torrances are left alone in the sprawling, labyrinthine hotel. Initially, the isolation feels almost idyllic. Jack throws himself into the maintenance tasks and his writing, finding inspiration in the hotel's rich and often sordid history. He is particularly fascinated by the hotel's scrapbook, which he discovers in the basement. The scrapbook contains clippings and photographs detailing scandals, murders, and other dark events associated with the Overlook, fueling Jack's obsession with the hotel and its past. He begins to see the job as more than just caretaking. He views it as an opportunity to write a book or play about the hotel, believing it will be his magnum opus. Danny's experiences at the Overlook are far less idyllic. His psychic abilities make him acutely aware of the hotel's sinister presence. He begins to see and hear things that his parents cannot, including the ghostly images of past guests and staff. Danny's visions are vivid and terrifying, often leaving him shaken and confused. He catches glimpses of horrific events that have taken place within the hotel's walls, including parties that devolve into chaos and violence, and a sense of something malevolent watching his every move. Despite his fear, Danny keeps much of what he experiences to himself, believing his parents would not understand or might dismiss his concerns as childish imagination. Wendy, for her part, tries to maintain a sense of normalcy for Danny while also keeping an eye on Jack's behavior. She notices that Jack is becoming increasingly irritable and distant, though she attributes this to his focus on his writing and the isolation. Wendy is determined to make the best of their situation, creating routines and trying to provide a stable environment for Danny. However, she too begins to sense that something is off about the Overlook. She has an uneasy feeling about the hotel, but rationalizes it as paranoia stemming from their isolation. As the days turn into weeks, the isolation begins to take its toll on Jack. His temper flares more easily, and he becomes increasingly consumed by the Overlook and its history. The hotel seems to exert a growing influence over him, feeding his insecurities and amplifying his darker impulses. Jack starts to hear and see things that he initially dismisses as tricks of the mind, but these experiences become more vivid and harder to ignore. The Overlook's malevolent force begins to target Jack, playing on his vulnerabilities and fueling his descent into obsession and instability. Danny's psychic encounters with the hotel grow more intense. One day, he is drawn to room 237, despite Halloran's warnings. Though he doesn't enter the room, he senses an overwhelming and terrifying presence emanating from it. The number itself begins to haunt him, appearing in his dreams and visions. Danny also has recurring visions of a word written in blood, Redrum, though he doesn't yet understand its meaning. These experiences leave Danny increasingly frightened and isolated, as he struggles to make sense of what is happening to him and the hotel. Jack's discovery of the hotel's scrapbook becomes a turning point in his relationship with the Overlook. The clippings and articles feed his obsession with the hotel's history, and he begins to see himself as a part of it. He starts to identify with the hotel's former residents and staff, particularly Delbert Grady, the caretaker who killed his family. Jack's thoughts become darker and more erratic, and he begins to drink imaginary alcohol, imagining himself at lavish parties with the ghosts of the hotel's past inhabitants. These hallucinations feel increasingly real to Jack, blurring the line between reality and the supernatural. Wendy grows more concerned about Jack's behavior and begins to fear for her and Danny's safety. She notices that Jack is becoming more secretive and volatile, and she starts to suspect that the isolation is affecting his mental state. Wendy's attempts to talk to Jack about her concerns are met with hostility, further straining their relationship. Despite her fears, Wendy remains committed to protecting Danny and tries to shield him from Jack's outbursts and the growing tension in their family. The Overlook's influence on Jack intensifies as he becomes more isolated from Wendy and Danny. The hotel feeds his delusions of grandeur, convincing him that he is destined for greatness and that the hotel holds the key to his success. Jack begins to view Wendy and Danny as obstacles to his ambitions, believing that they don't understand or support him. His resentment toward them grows, and he starts to entertain violent thoughts, though he doesn't act on them. Danny's psychic connection to the Overlook reaches its peak as he experiences a series of terrifying visions. He sees images of his father attacking his mother and himself, as well as glimpses of the hotel's dark past. Danny tries to reach out to Halloran telepathically, but the distance makes it difficult to establish a strong connection. He feels increasingly isolated and powerless, as the hotel's presence becomes more oppressive and pervasive. By the end of this phase, the tension within the Torrance family has reached a breaking point. The Overlook's influence over Jack is nearly complete, and Danny's visions suggest that the worst is yet to come. Wendy's attempts to maintain normalcy are overshadowed by her growing fear for her family's safety, and Danny's shining reveals the dark and violent history of the hotel in vivid detail. The stage is set for the events to escalate further, as the Overlook tightens its grip on the Torrance family. The final phase of the Torrance family's harrowing ordeal in the Overlook Hotel begins with the mounting terror of Jack's relentless descent into madness and the escalating danger posed by the hotel's supernatural forces. Jack, now entirely under the influence of the Overlook, has transformed into a violent and unrecognizable figure. His connection to the hotel has deepened to the point where he believes he is a crucial part of its legacy and must fulfill its sinister demands. Armed with a roquet mallet and driven by the hotel's malevolent will, Jack embarks on a rampage to eliminate Wendy and Danny, whom he now sees as obstacles to his destiny. Danny's shining abilities play a pivotal role as he navigates the hotel's labyrinthine corridors, attempting to evade Jack and the Overlook's increasingly oppressive presence. The boy's psychic powers allow him to anticipate Jack's movements and understand the full extent of the hotel's malevolence. Danny realizes that the Overlook's ultimate goal is to consume him, exploiting his shining as a powerful source of energy to sustain itself. Despite his fear, Danny resolves to protect his mother and confront the evil within the hotel, demonstrating courage beyond his years. Wendy, though battered and terrified, refuses to succumb to despair. She fights valiantly to protect Danny and herself from Jack's violent outbursts. Her resourcefulness and determination are tested to their limits as she uses whatever tools and weapons she can find to fend off Jack's attacks. The hotel seems to conspire against her, creating obstacles and manipulating the environment to trap her and Danny. Yet Wendy's resilience proves formidable, and she manages to outwit Jack on several occasions, ensuring that she and Danny remain one step ahead of him. The climax of the family's struggle unfolds in a series of intense and harrowing confrontations. Jack corners Wendy and Danny in various parts of the hotel, each encounter more violent and desperate than the last. During one confrontation, Wendy sustains serious injuries but manages to incapacitate Jack temporarily, giving her and Danny a chance to escape to another part of the hotel. The physical and emotional toll on Wendy is immense, yet her determination to protect Danny keeps her going. Danny, meanwhile, experiences a pivotal moment of clarity regarding the Overlook's power and intentions. He uses his shining to communicate directly with the hotel, confronting its malevolent essence and refusing to submit to its will. Danny's bravery and defiance weaken the Overlook's hold over him, disrupting its plans to claim him as its own. The hotel responds with increased aggression, manifesting terrifying apparitions and manipulating the physical environment to isolate and terrify the boy. Despite this, Danny remains resolute, using his psychic abilities to outmaneuver the hotel's attempts to break him. Jack's pursuit of Wendy and Danny culminates in a dramatic and heart-wrenching confrontation in the hotel's snow-covered hedge maze. As Jack chases Danny through the maze, his descent into madness reaches its peak. He is no longer a father or a husband, but a pawn of the Overlook, consumed by its malevolent power. Danny, however, uses his intelligence and psychic insight to outwit Jack, leading him deeper into the maze and ultimately escaping while Jack becomes hopelessly lost. Simultaneously, the Overlook's boiler, an integral and dangerous part of the hotel's infrastructure, reaches a critical point. Earlier in the story, Jack had been warned about the importance of regularly releasing pressure from the boiler to prevent an explosion. However, in his obsession with the Overlook and his pursuit of Wendy and Danny, Jack neglects this crucial task. As the pressure in the boiler builds to catastrophic levels, the Overlook's fate becomes intertwined with that of the Torrance family. Danny's psychic connection to the hotel allows him to sense the imminent danger posed by the boiler. He communicates this to Wendy, who seizes the opportunity to escape the hotel with Danny while Jack remains trapped in the maze. As the boiler explodes, the resulting inferno engulfs the Overlook, destroying the hotel and severing its grip on Jack. The explosion is both a literal and symbolic end to the Overlook's reign of terror, as its malevolent influence is eradicated in the flames. Jack's final moments are a tragic culmination of his internal struggle and the Overlook's control. Though consumed by madness, a fleeting glimpse of his humanity resurfaces in his last moments, as he experiences a momentary recognition of his love for Danny. This brief flicker of Jack's true self is extinguished as the Overlook claims him entirely, leaving him to perish in the explosion. In the aftermath of the Overlook's destruction, Wendy and Danny are left to grapple with the trauma of their ordeal. They are rescued by Dick Halloran, the hotel's chef, who had returned to the Overlook after receiving a psychic distress call from Danny. Halloran's arrival is a beacon of hope, providing the support and care that Wendy and Danny desperately need. Despite their physical and emotional scars, Wendy and Danny's survival is a testament to their resilience and strength in the face of unimaginable horror. The story concludes with a sense of bittersweet resolution. The destruction of the Overlook marks the end of its malevolent influence, but the experiences within its walls leave an indelible mark on Wendy and Danny. Danny's shining remains a powerful and enigmatic part of him, a reminder of both the horrors he endured and the strength he displayed. As Wendy and Danny look toward an uncertain future, they carry with them the knowledge that they overcame the Overlook's darkness and emerged stronger for it, even as they mourn the loss of Jack and the life they once had. The final moments of the narrative underscore the enduring impact of the events at the Overlook, as well as the resilience of the human spirit in the face of unimaginable evil. The Torrance family's story is one of tragedy, survival, and the enduring power of love and courage, even in the darkest of times. The end. I hope you have enjoyed this summary. If you liked it, please subscribe so I can keep uploading even more books. Also, giving me a like helps a lot. Finally, if you would like me to summarize the second book in the series or any specific book, please write me it in the comments.